Hello and welcome to Byjus Exam Prep IAS. Very warm good morning to everyone. I hope all of you are doing good. I welcome you all to today's session of the Hindu Newspaper Analysis, a place where every day at 10 a.m. we analyze the day's Hindu newspaper to bring out the most important news stories from both the prelims and the mains examination point of view. Before we begin discussing today's important news stories, an important announcement for all of you, a quick reminder. 24th of December will mark the beginning of our All India Prelims test series, which has a total of 30 tests. The first 3 tests are free for everyone. All that you have to do is register using the link given in the description of the video. Alternatively, you can also give a missed call on this number and you can get all the details about this test series, where you will get a complete analysis of every single test along with your All India rank as well. Now, these are the topics that we have taken up for today's discussion. Our first topic will be about the UAPA law, the issues with this law, and a recent judgment by the Jammu and Kashmir High Court about UAPA and how bail should not be denied under UAPA. The second article is about a recent judgment by the Madras High Court on the issue of patents. So it's an article about India's patent law, how the patent law in India needs to change, what are the loopholes in the law, etc. Third article is about the areas where India for about a century now has been seeing continuous patterns of rainfall. The article talks about how the IMD can now predict particularly well which are the areas which are expected to have heavier than expected rainfall, so that we can be much better prepared for that. The fourth article is on the concept of anarcho-capitalism, a phrase that became famous and relevant with respect to Argentina. Argentina's new president is being defined as a person who follows anarcho-capitalism. From the prelims exam point of view, since the parliament is in session, so a lot of news coming in from the parliament. Yesterday, Lok Sabha passed the bill for women's quota in Jammu, Kashmir and Puducherry assemblies as well. The bill had already been passed by the parliament. It was a constitutional amendment bill. Now it will be applicable to Jammu, Kashmir and Puducherry assemblies as well. Then Rajya Sabha passed the bill for appointment of Chief Election Commissioner, election commissioners, and in the end, a report by FAO has said 74% Indians could not afford healthy diet in 2021. Let's start our discussion with the first one in detail. The first article is about the UAPA law. UAPA, as you know, stands for Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. As all of you know, this is the premier law which has been formulated in India against any terror activity. So this is the main anti-terror law that the government of India uses. However, in the past few years, there have been multiple allegations of the government misusing this law, the government arresting people under this law if the person criticizes the government or criticizes any of the working of the government. There have been multiple such cases where people have been sent to the jail. The problem with this law is, under this, it's extremely difficult to get bail. Getting bail under this law, even if your offense may not be very extreme, is extremely difficult. This article is written on one such instance. So, this article is written with respect to a judgment that was given by the Jammu and Kashmir High Court in November, that is just last month. In this judgment, the Jammu Kashmir High Court had given bail to a journalist, Mr. Fahad Shah. Let's try and understand this case. Mr. Fahad Shah, who is a journalist, had written an article. In this article, he had criticized a bit of government of India's working. He had criticized about how the government of India is taking India towards a path which is against our principles. Under this article, after he criticized the government of India, he was arrested under the UAPA law. Now, when he applied for bail, saying that I've just written this article, these are just my thoughts, I have that liberty to express my thoughts, he was arrested and the bail was denied to him. Why? Because the issue is, in this law, as per UAPA, the bail can be denied if the court thinks that prima facie that prima facie the charges that the police has imposed on you seem to be true. Prima facie means without any investigation on the first look. For example, if someone tells you that this person has stolen some money, you have not investigated it, but just by the looks of it, you think that this can be true. That means prima facie. So UAPA denies bail prima facie if the court believes that yes, the allegations put here are true. This particular section which denies bail is section 43D5. It says that the court will not grant bail if they find that the police material established the accusation as prima facie true. The Jammu and Kashmir High Court, however, did not agree to that. The Jammu and Kashmir High Court said that a law such as UAPA, yes, it is important to fight against terror, but it cannot be given the freedom to take away any person's liberty. Because a law such as UAPA, when you impose these sanctions on any individual, it has the potential to ruin the entire life of that individual. It decreases the chance of the person having a proper career, having a proper life. It puts the person in the prison for long durations because these cases go on for a long time, and also there is bail denied. The court said that there needs to be greater circumspection in its enforcement. Means the law agencies cannot just freely utilize the law against whoever they want to arrest. Just because a strong law has been given to them doesn't mean that its application has to be loose. Also, the question here as per the author is, you can arrest a lot of people under UAPA. For example, a person who allegedly has planted a bomb, a bomber can also be arrested under UAPA. On the other hand, a person who was forced by the terrorist to give out some information, a person whose family was arrested and then the person was forced by the terrorist to give some information, that particular person can also be arrested under UAPA. On both the cases, are these the same? Are these the same kind of offenses? Can you deny bail to both of them? Not really. So you have to understand, not everyone arrested under UAPA can be into the same category. You can say that under certain categories you will not give the bail, but that does not mean that under every category you will not give the bail. Now, the interesting part is, this is not the first time that a court in India has said that the investigative agencies are misusing UAPA. This is not the first time that any court has said that UAPA should be used very, very rarely. However, even with all these judgments coming in time and time again, we have not seen any reduction in the number of times that UAPA is imposed under different circumstances. For example, the Supreme Court few months ago in Vernon Gonzalez case said there is no need for the courts to turn revolutionaries and protect people's personal liberty. The government itself and the investigative agencies themselves should do their duty and not go ahead and restrict anyone's personal liberty. So Supreme Court had repeated the same thing. They had said that courts should not need to interfere time and time again. It should be understandable by the government itself. It should be understandable by the investigative agencies themselves that do not misuse a law such as UAPA. There should not be a need for the court to come time and time again and hold the government accountable. Now, the question on misuse of UAPA has always been debated. Now, there are two sides to look at this. One, everyone would agree to this that any country needs a strong anti-terror law. No one will say that no, we should not have a law against terrorism. It's important to have a law which gives strict punishments against terrorism. On the other hand, you also have to ensure that there are provisions in place to stop the misuse of such law, which is where UAPA seems to be lacking right now. For example, these are the concerns with regards to UAPA. Its misuse has been said time and time again by different people, by different agencies. The courts have repeatedly said that UAPA has been misused. There is also lack of accountability. For example, let's assume a person was arrested under UAPA. That person spent 2 years in jail and 3 years in jail. After that, the person was let go. and told that no, you are not guilty. The question is, who will compensate to that person for the 3 or 2 years that he lost of his life? The 2 to 3 years that he spent in the jail, the kind of mental harassment that the person faced, who will compensate for that? The loss of job, the loss of income, the loss of family, who will compensate for that? There is no accountability. Also under the law, definition of terrorist acts is vague. It has been misused by the law agencies time and time again. It has been interpreted in such a way that it infringes on freedom of speech and assembly. In this case as well, on which the article has been written, it's all based on a journalist writing an article. Then there are restrictions on bail that we discuss, excessive punishment. Even if a person is forced to give out some information, they can still be given punishment as harsh as the death penalty. Now, judiciary also has spoken against this multiple times. This is not the first time that a High Court has spoken against bail provisions in UAPA. For example, in 2011 in Aru Bhuyan versus the state of Assam, Supreme Court said that just by a person having a membership of a banned organization does not mean that the person should be a criminal. There are a lot of organizations that are banned. If the government bans an organization and a person was found to be a member of that organization, doesn't mean that the person automatically should become a terrorist. You cannot arrest a person under UAPA just because he or she was a member of an organization that has been banned. Similarly, the Supreme Court in 2021 had said that notwithstanding the restriction that UAPA has, constitutional courts can still allow bail if they think that the fundamental right of the accused has been violated. So again, this is an important judgment of the court that yes, UAPA may put restrictions on bail, but if the constitutional courts think that these restrictions are against the fundamental rights of the accused, they can still go ahead and give the bail to the accused in such cases. The next article is on a very interesting topic that you usually read in GS3 economics, that is the topic of patents. I hope all of you know what patents are. So basically, those who don't know, let's first try and understand the idea of patents. Let's assume that I have a pharmaceutical company. For many years, I have been working to invent a special medicine, a drug that can cure COVID-19. And after years of research, spending billions and billions of dollars, I am able to get a medicine that can cure COVID-19. Because I spent so much money, I would not want anyone to copy this medicine. I would want to earn profit from it. I have to sell it at an expensive price. How do I protect my invention from not being copied? This is where patent comes in. So basically, I will apply for a government patent. Patent is usually given for 20 years. So I will be given a guarantee from the side of the government that for 20 years, no one will be allowed to copy your product. You can sell whatever you want and whatever price, that no one will be allowed to copy it. That's called a patent in very simple terms. There are many exceptions to that as well. Now, what exactly is the problem here? The problem here is, in India's patent law, there are certain conditions under which patent cannot be given. We'll discuss those conditions. Recently, as per the author, there have been 2 important judgments about patent that tell us about the future of the patents in India and in what conditions patent can be denied. The author says that India very famously had the Novartis judgment from the Supreme Court. Now, what was that judgment? Let me first tell you that. So, Novartis is a very, very, very famous pharmaceutical company, one of the leaders in the world. A few years back, they had said that we have a new medicine that can treat cancer. So, in India also they applied for a patent. They wanted it in India, it should not be copied. Now what happened was, when they applied for a patent, Indian Patent Office denied them. Why? Our office denied them the patent, saying that you have not invented a new medicine. It is an older medicine, you have just changed the form and appearance. Only the physical appearance of the medicine has been changed. It is still the old existing medicine. You cannot get the patent again. This practice is called evergreening. Evergreening of patents means, for example, I made a new medicine, a new drug. I got the patent for 20 years. Great. I earned a good money. When 20 years are coming to an end, I will make a very small change in that medicine, very minute change. No new invention, just a minute change. And then I will tell the government, see, I made a new invention now. Give me patent for 20 more years. This practice is called evergreening. This is not allowed. In India also, Supreme Court denied this. Supreme Court said that no, we will not allow that. So in the Novartis judgment, famously the Supreme Court had denied giving the patent under section 3D of the Patent Act. Because under this section, it says that the new invention has to show enhanced therapeutic efficacy. Means as compared to existing medicine, the new medicine that you have invented has to prove that it is much more effective, only then the patent can be given. Now, the author here is talking about two very recent judgments about patents in India to understand how the patent law works. Let's understand this. First judgment. Novozymes versus Assistant Controller of Patents and Design. What is this judgment all about? This judgment is about section 3E of the Patent Act. Section 3E says, patent will not be given to compositions that amount to a mere aggregation of their components. What does this mean? Let's understand. Let's say there are 5 medicines that exist right now, free of patent, like paracetamol, etc., free of patent. Some company comes up with an idea. They combine all these 5 medicines together and they make one new medicine. And then they start applying for a patent. That will not be given to you. You will be given a patent if you have invented something new. If you have done a new research, just by combining something that is already free, that is already available knowledge, just by combining all of that, you cannot apply for a patent. The patent will not be given to you. This is under section 3E. So, this company had gone to apply for a patent in India. The patent office had denied them the patent. They had said that no, under section 3E, you cannot be given this patent. What did the court say? The court took the side of the company. What happened here? The court said, court's judgment was, let's assume you're combining 5 different components. Out of these 5, even if one of them is a patentable medicine, out of these 5, even if one is patentable medicine, then patent can be given to you. That is what the court's judgment was. That out of all these components that you are combining, even if one of them is eligible to get a patent, then the entire composition can get a patent. This was the application of section 3E. Second case. The second case is of Hong Kong and Shanghai University versus Assistant Controller of Patents. This is about India's patent law, section 3I. What does it say? It says that any medical test that is used to identify a disease, any medical test, for example, you go for a blood test, you go for a test of disease such as, let's say, thyroid, HIV. If you have invented a test that is able to identify a disease, it cannot be patented. It cannot be patented. Why? The idea is simple. If you patent it, you are the only company that is able to provide that test. Those who can't afford that test will die. That is not allowed. For example, when the COVID-19 testing started, if a company was the first one to discover or to invent a test kit using which COVID-19 could be tested, that could not be patented. Everyone should have the access to that. That kind of technology which identifies or diagnoses the disease cannot be patented. That is section 3I. And the court said that yes, any disease that is being diagnosed through a test in humans or animals, that test cannot be under any patent. If the test cannot diagnose a disease, then it will be patent eligible. If the test is not about diagnosing a disease, it's about something else, then you can get it patented. But if the test is capable of diagnosing a disease, then it is patent ineligible. The reason is you cannot misuse the patent to let the people die. The idea of patent is to make sure that the companies are able to protect their invention. But you cannot give a patent to a company just so that they can protect any testing. You have to open it to the people as much as possible. The author here says the problem with these judgments is that India's patent laws are not clear. There is a need to have bright line rules. Bright line rules means clear cut rules. The author says there is a need to have clear cut rules. India's patent law is old. It has been criticized multiple times. The sections that we are reading about, section 3E, 3I, they have been interpreted in a different manner time and time again. The author says, if we want new inventions to happen in India, if we want new inventions from outside to come to India, we have to make our patent laws clear. Because understand, if a company invents something after spending millions and billions of dollars in research, they have the right to protect it. They have the right to make sure that it does not go out of their hand. And for that to happen, it is extremely, extremely important that such inventions are protected under the patent law. Now, India's patent law is originally of 1960, Indian Patent Act of 1970, India's Patent Act of 1970. It says that for a patent to be granted, there are certain conditions. The invention should be novel. Novel means new. Remember, we all said novel coronavirus. So novel means new form of. It should have some inventive steps, must be non-obvious. It should be capable of industrial application. It should not attract the provisions of section 3(4) of the Patent Act. 3(4) are the exceptions where patent cannot be given, which are excluded from patent. Now, India also over the past few years has understood that we have to ensure that our patent laws are in line with the laws that are followed around the world. India has aligned itself with the TRIPS, that is International Regime to Intellectual Property Rights. We have the trade-related aspects of intellectual property right, TRIPS agreement under the WTO. We have also been aligned to that as well. However, sorry for my throat and voice. I hope I am audible perfectly. Even after all these initiatives taken by the government of India, the reality is India is still criticized time and time again by nations such as the US specifically. The US every single year release a report called USTR 301 report. USTR is United States Trade Representative. So there is a department of the US government that releases a report, the USTR report. In this report, they give a list of those nations where the US is not satisfied with the patent law. India usually appears on the watch list. Watch list means those nations whose record in terms of patent is not good as per the US. So basically, US companies and the US government believe that if their products come to India, Indian government, Indian laws will not be able to protect them. And this is actually true to a certain extent. I'll give you an example. Even today, and it happened much more earlier, when you used to buy a laptop, if you buy a laptop with proper Windows operating system uploaded, let's say the laptop is 40,000 rupees with Windows. You also had an option to buy a laptop without Windows, the DOS laptop. It would be, let's say, 34,000 rupees, because the remaining 6,000 would be the cost of Windows operating system, which goes to Microsoft. So what happens is people buy this 34,000 rupees laptop and then they go and buy a pirated version of the Windows. So basically what you do is you go to these electronic markets at big cities. For example, in Delhi, you have a market called the Nehru Place. You go to Nehru Place, you will get a Windows CD for 100 rupees or 200 rupees. So you don't want to pay this money. You're happy buying the pirated version of it. That again is a problem that you see around yourself. That is how the patent laws have not been able to protect these kind of inventions from being copied, that's a big problem. The next article that we have here is from Geography. It's about a research that has shown how India's rainfall patterns are actually more predictable than we had thought earlier. There have been multiple studies done under which it has been proven beyond any point now that global warming has had a major impact on climatic patterns around the world. For example, on Indian monsoon as well, global warming has a major impact. The monsoon onset has been delayed also because of the global warming. There are multiple other factors responsible for that as well. We have seen how there are areas which have not seen rains for many months as compared to areas where the rain patterns have been so irregular that a lot of crops have been destroyed just because we have not been able to predict it. Now, the idea is the IMD, that is Indian Meteorological Department, over the years they have become much better in predicting the onset of the monsoons. Not just the monsoon, they have also become better in predicting the extreme weather patterns. For example, they can predict that there will be very heavy rainfall in certain states, in certain areas, which helps us to reduce the loss of life because it gives enough time to the authorities to move the people from one place to the other place. It also allows the economy to reduce the economic loss that it would face. Now, the interesting part is, after all this research data, the good part is it is very easily defined which are the areas in India which are expected to see heavy rainfall. The data that has been collected over several decades has shown that large-scale extreme rainfall events in India occur across a highway which extends from West Bengal to Odisha and to the parts of Gujarat and Rajasthan. Now, this new finding from the IMD side, after studying all that data, that these are the areas that are susceptible to most of the extreme rainfall, give a great heads up for the planning to happen in these areas. Because when you can predict what are the difficult situations that you will face, when exactly is it that you expect heavy rainfall to occur, you can make attempts to subsude and ensure that all the negative impact of such weather patterns can be negated to a large extent. Now, the important idea is, how does the IMD predict the rainfall? Or how do they predict monsoon? When would it start? When would it end? On the news, you would see many times the dates are given that monsoon will start from Kerala from the 1st of May. How are these dates given? How do they predict when the monsoon will come to Delhi or Mumbai, etc.? So basically, the monsoon as a discovery is centuries old. If you go back to how it all began, when there were no computers, the forecast mainly depended on the snow cover. Lesser the snow cover meant a better monsoon. Then British physicist Gilbert Walker, who was the head of the IMD, he was the one who came up with a statistical weather model to predict the weather. In 2014, so very recently, IMD started to use numerical models to supplement the statistical models for long-range forecasting as well. The system that IMD uses today is actually American-made. It's the US National Centers for Environmental Prediction Model. They are the ones who have held us to have this model. Now, understand this, with climatic patterns, no prediction model can be 100% true, but more data that you collect, the older that you become, the more accurate you can be. More are the chances that you will become much more accurate. For example, IMD collects weather data like temperature, humidity, wind, precipitation from 679 weather stations. We also have 550 surface observatories. Then we have 24 radars, 3 satellites, etc. All of that would eventually allow us to make such predictions. Apart from that, highly advanced dynamical models also need supercomputers. Some of the supercomputers are also being used here to predict these weather pattern climates. Again, all these things, when they turn out to be true, when the predictions are spot on, that leads to much lesser loss of life, much lesser loss of crop. The problem is, with many other things, IMD also, its predictions also, come in the news much more when they fail. When they are successful, when the predictions are what we expected, then you don't see a lot of news happening. But only when the predictions don't turn out to be true, this is when you usually see a lot of news being made out of it. A few years back, India and the US started an initiative to have more data about such weather patterns. A scientific research vessel called Sagar Nidhi, again it was an India-US collaboration, was sent to the Bay of Bengal to collect month-long data about oceanic condition, about depth and location, about how the weather patterns are changing to predict the southwest monsoon. So again, this is one of those examples of India-US collaboration that does not come in the news very often, but it is extremely significant for both the sides. The next article is about a concept of anarcho-capitalism. This is relevant because the new Argentina president, that is Javier Milei, the interesting president who has now come to power holding a chainsaw, he describes himself as an anarcho-capitalist. Now, what is anarcho-capitalism? It's basically made up of two words, anarchy and capitalism. I'm sure all of you are aware of the word capitalism. Capitalism refers to free market economy. It refers to the fact that the government will not interfere in the working of the industries. The government will not interfere by giving subsidies, etc. What is anarchy? Now, anarchy is a word that is usually used to describe lack of order. If you have a very bad law and order, absence of law and order, people say there's anarchy everywhere. But in reality, if you look at the dictionary, anarchy simply means no hierarchy. Or, in other words, lack of government. Now, you might associate no law and order situation with anarchy, with lack of government. But a lot of people, for example, Mahatma Gandhi also said that I believe in anarchy. Because that anarchy means no hierarchy in the government, no one sitting at the top to take decisions and the decision will then infiltrate. Anarchy would mean that there is minimum or almost zero government that exists. Javier Milei, as soon as he became the president of Argentina, he announced a lot of very drastic measures. Usually, when someone becomes a president or prime minister, when they make the first speech, what do they say? They say everything is going to be great, we'll become the best country, don't worry, I'm here now. That's what usually the first speeches are. But his first speech on the 10th of December was directly the opposite. He told his country there is no money left. There will be a shock in the coming days. He said that public work projects will be halted. He said that our trade currency controls will be lifted. He said that the first few years or first few months at least will be shocking, but you have to now settle down and make sure that we are in it together. Argentina is facing an inflation of over 100%, means the prices of the commodities doubling. That's the problem they're facing. Argentina has a long ongoing theory or ideology called Peronism. Peronism is based on the idea of social justice, means the government should interfere, the government should give subsidies, the government should spend more money, the government should build a lot of capital infrastructure, etc. Government should provide jobs. The new president is directly opposite to it because he believes in anarcho-capitalism. So on one hand, he is saying that I will give you a free market economy, free marketplace, private companies can thrive because he believes in capitalism. And then he says that government will almost non-exist. There is a famous video of his on YouTube and you can check it out. In that video, on a board, there are 10-12 stickers. So for example, on one sticker it says Ministry of Women Empowerment. One sticker it says Ministry of Sports. One sticker it says Ministry of Environment. So what is he doing? He's going one by one. He's saying Ministry of Environment, no, taking out that sticker. Ministry of Women Empowerment, not required, taking out that sticker. Ministry of Social Justice, not required, taking out the sticker. Ministry of Sports, not required, taking out that sticker. So this is what he's doing. He says that all these things in the government, the departments, the ministries, all that is a waste of time. The government should be minimal, absolutely minimal. That is his concept of anarchy. That is where anarcho-capitalism has come into the picture. Now again, there are similar sounding ideologies that you will see. Anarcho-communism, anarcho-collectivism, anarcho-mutualism, geo-anarchism and anarcho-capitalism. Again, when you prefix the word anarchy, that means lack of government, almost non-existing government. And that is how these ideologies basically go ahead. From the prelims exam point of view, again a few news stories. First couple of these from the parliament, which is in session. The Lok Sabha passed a bill for women's quota to be applicable in Jammu and Kashmir and Puducherry as well. I'm sure all of you know about this. We have discussed this earlier as well. 106th Constitutional Amendment Act was passed in a special meeting called by the government a few weeks back, which granted 33% reservation for women in the parliament and in the state legislatures. Now it will be extended to apply on Puducherry and Jammu and Kashmir as well. Just reminding you, this reservation for women is not applicable immediately. It would only be applicable once the census is done. On the basis of that census, we'll have the delimitation done. Delimitation means the number of seats in the parliament and the state legislature will change as per the population. Once the delimitation is also done, only then we will have women reservation coming into the picture. Also, this women quota is not for an unlimited amount of time. This will be applicable for 15 years and the parliament can later extend it. This happens with most of the reservations. Most of the reservations that you see, for example, in the parliament, in Lok Sabha, we have scheduled caste and scheduled tribe reservation. That's also something that just keeps on reviving itself every 10 years. It was not supposed to be unlimited. Now, we have discussed earlier as well about the women reservation bill. We have had great debates about it. We have shared numbers as well. But just to refresh your memory, the reason why there is a requirement for women reservation in the parliament, especially the lower house, is because of the dismal representation that women have had in this house. If you see, women representation increased from 5% in the first Lok Sabha to only 15% in the 17th Lok Sabha. Now, even if you consider 49% of our population as women, for that 49% of the representation is only 15%, and that too now, there is a long way to go to achieve that. We already have 1/3 reservation in panchayats and in municipalities. Now it has been increased and extended to state legislature and in the parliament as well. Also, this women reservation bill is not for the first time that such a bill was introduced. There have been multiple attempts and in the past, somehow all of that lapsed. Now this one was able to get through and get the nod of the parliament. Interestingly, whenever any reservation bill etc. come in, the Supreme Court always says that in order to justify a reservation, it has to pass the triple test. Supreme Court always says that in order to have the reservation, it has to pass a triple test. What is that triple test? Basically, first, you have to set a dedicated commission to examine the backwardness of that group where you are giving the reservation. For example, National Commission for Women. Second, you have to determine the size of the quota on the basis of a survey data. You cannot randomly just present any number as a reservation number. Third, the reservation combined with scheduled caste tribe could not be more than 50%. Now, again, this is the triple test. Supreme Court did not say about the triple test in this women reservation thing specifically, but Supreme Court keeps on repeating about the triple test for reservation quotas. The last time they said this was when we were discussing OBC reservation in Maharashtra local body elections. Please do remember, these are the three principles of the triple test that the Supreme Court wants to be carried out before any reservation is finalized. Next, in the parliament, in the upper house, that is the Rajya Sabha, they have passed a bill for appointment of Chief Election Commissioner and the election commissioners. Again, something that we have discussed earlier, reminding you once again what is this issue all about. So basically, if you go back a few months before that, Chief Election Commissioner and the election commissioners were appointed by the President of India. There was no specific procedure for that. The President would just take advice from the Prime Minister. On the basis of that advice, the President of India would appoint them. What happened was the Supreme Court had interfered. The Supreme Court said that no, we will not allow that. Supreme Court constituted a 3-member committee. They said that Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition of the Lok Sabha, and the Chief Justice of India, they should be the one who should give the name to the President, and then the President should appoint that person as the election commissioner. Government obviously did not like this. Why? Because in this 3-member committee, government wants a majority. Because government wants to appoint officers of their choice. So what did the government do? The government passed a bill changing this to a 3-member committee of Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition, and a cabinet minister of Prime Minister's choice. Cabinet Minister of Prime Minister's choice. These 3 people will then appoint or will then recommend to the President who will be the new election commissioner. Now, this has been done. Now, the question is, what exactly has this bill done now when it has been passed in the Rajya Sabha? So, basically, Centre has brought in official 2 amendments. First, bringing the protocol of Chief Election Commissioner on par with Supreme Court judges and similar salaries and emoluments. Now, what is this all about? Let me explain this to you. When this bill was introduced, what the government did was, government had said that the stature of election commissioners will be the same as cabinet secretaries. This is what the government had written in the original bill, that the status of the election commissioner will be equal to that of cabinet secretary. This was criticized by many people. Why? See, the idea is, if status of election commissioner is equal to Supreme Court judges, that means then the election commissioners can summon the politicians. They can ask the politicians to come and appear before themselves, just like Supreme Court does. But if you say that their status is equal to cabinet secretary, that means then you are a bureaucrat. That means you cannot summon the politicians or ministers. That's the big difference. So when the government earlier said that the status of election commissioners and the salary emoluments will be equal to cabinet secretary, the problem was not with the salary, the problem was with the stature. Because when you make the stature equal to a bureaucrat, that means you are not giving them the right or the power to actually summon officers, summon ministers. Now it has been corrected. Now the Centre has said in the new version that their stature is on par with the Supreme Court judges, so they can summon, if they want, any of these people or any of the ministers if they are investigating any matter. Also, although it's a pretty simple question, but tell me a couple of things. I have 2 questions for you today. Homework. First question. Now the committee that will recommend appointment of Chief Election Commissioner and election commissioners, this committee is the same committee that recommends for which other office? Let me repeat. First question is, the committee now that will recommend to the President about appointment of election commissioner, chief election commissioner, same committee of same 3 members is used or has the power to appoint which other office? Number 1. Second question that I have is slightly tricky. When the election commission became a 3-member body for the first time, from 1 member to 3 member, who was the President of India at that time? Think about it, let me know in the comment section. As I said earlier, I read all the comments, so do tell me in the comment section. First, the committee that now recommends to the president the appointment of election commissioner, the chief election commissioner, same committee recommends with other appointment. And the second question, when the election commission became a 3-member body for the first time, at that time, who was the president of India? The last topic for the day is based on a report by FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN. They have given some numbers which are again not very good, but we have unfortunately been used to these numbers. This report says that in 2021, about 3/4 of Indians, that is 74% of the Indians, could not afford any healthy meal. Now, remember, this is not an India-specific report. It's a global report. It gives trends of different parts of the world. It gives trends about Asia, and in Asia specifically about India as well. The report says 74.1% Indians couldn't get a healthy meal in 2021. In 2020, the percentage was 76.2%. So very slightly better. If you look at the neighborhood, if you want to feel happy, you can feel happy that we did better than Pakistan at least. In Pakistan, 82.2% people could not afford a healthy meal. In Bangladesh, 66.1% could not afford a healthy meal. Why? First single biggest reason, the rising food cost, because of which people could not afford it. Also, the report pointed out COVID-19 and the 5F crisis. Now, please do remember the 5F. These kind of terminologies, 5F, which is used by international reports like FAO report, can be used in the mains exam as well. It is extremely handy. If you are planning to refer something like this in the main exam or quote this in the main exam, do mention as per the FAO report. Don't just randomly say 5F and expect the examiner to know. Write completely 5F crisis as mentioned in the FAO report. Food, feed, fuel, fertilizers and finance. These are the big issues that our region in Asia has been suffering from. There are other numbers as well about India. 16.6% of our country is undernourished right now as per FAO. 31.7% of children of India under 5 suffer from stunted growth. Now again, these are numbers by FAO. India also has its own numbers in our National Family Health Survey. The numbers may be slightly different. Please understand this. The government of India has its own National Family Health Survey. Those numbers may be very, very slightly different. It doesn't really mean that one is true, one is wrong, that the way in which the numbers are culminated are slightly different, but the trends are similar. It's not that our National Family Health Survey would say that no, there is no undernourishment. They also say there's undernourishment. The numbers may be slightly different. That is why my suggestion is, if you are quoting these numbers in any of the answers or essay, if you are quoting these numbers of undernourishment or obesity or women anemia, etc., please do quote your source. Are you quoting from National Family Health Survey or are you quoting from FAO report? That is important because the numbers can be slightly different. I have taken a few snippets from the report just to give an example. This report, as I said, talks about different regions of the world. Look at Asia. This is about prevalence of undernourishment. In Asia, 8.5% of the population undernourished. In Africa, it is the highest, close to 20%. Very, very bad. Almost 1 in every 5 person in Africa right now is undernourished. Also, if you look at the total undernourished population of the world, how are they spread? Population-wise, Asia is the highest. Again, understand the difference. Population-wise, in terms of exact numbers, Asia has the highest number of people who are undernourished. Percentage-wise, percentage of the population, Africa has the largest number of people who are undernourished. So you can quote this as well. This brings us to the end of today's discussion. I hope you learned a lot of new things today. There were a couple of practice questions. I hope that you would be able to search answers for them. Do tell me in the comment section what are the answers to these questions. Do join us tomorrow as well at 10 a.m. for the next session of the Hindu Newspaper Analysis. There are a couple of practice questions here. As always, I hope that you will be able to write answers to these. Use the student answer writing portal to check each other's answers and give each other feedback. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day ahead. Bye-bye. Jai Hind.